So, we're gonna build this. It's basically seized.
We can put it down one more time tomorrow, but spending too much time.
Yeah.
And I'll tell the owner, probably spent too much time on your engine.
So, we're gonna build this. We washed it again.
Yeah, everything's been washed, rifle brushed through here.
Yeah.
New quarter pipe plugs put in. I can't stand the Allen head because those will round out before we can get them out of the engine.
Yeah, it's all ball bearings. So, first we're gonna install these mains right now. Yeah, the engine's been balanced.
Crank is clean. Other half of the case is clean. So we're ready to get the case halves together, get the engine, the crank and the cam installed, get the other half on, get it torqued on, possibly get the bell housing in yet today, get that on. I like to put it on this little table once we get the table cleared and get this together. Mm-hmm. And then when the pistons and rods show up, they can go on, get torqued on. Then the oil pickup gets put on there, and then the pan can get put on it. Put a idler bearing and a blower bearing. The heads are already done and together. Yeah. Did those before you guys knew about it. And it won't be long and this will be going together. So let's start. First step is lube up the...
So we're using assembly lube, red line, good stuff.
It's good, it's sticky, it stays put, it mixes with oil real readily.
Yeah.
On the engine build videos for the factories, they just have a little squirt comes in and goes, whoop, puts a tiny bit of oil in there.
It's been cleaned again. I forgot the... it's clean again.
And this one, I'm going to have you hold it.
Okay. So we're putting that in the top here.
Okay.
It's exactly some amount of torque.
Yeah, it's exactly the right amount of some torque. Some number. These big bags for McMaster Car do come in handy.
Well, if you guys have any bags from McMaster Car, please send them our way. No, don't do that.
No, don't do that. We have plenty. Fresh off the video that we showed this is the gear install.
This is the one that we dipped in liquid nitrogen. So people call us crazy. You've been doing it for years.
Mm-hmm.
Because these gears are so easy to gall. And so you can't do that.
Your failure is actually going to be known when you push it on. If it gets partways on and then you have to push it on with a press the rest of the way, you better figure pull it off, throw it away, and get you another gear. Fly off. Then you have valves hitting the piston and the engine's messed up, and it's a full disassembly to correct that mistake.
Now, but that's worse than the cam being a little more brittle. So don't drop it.
No. Molybdenum disulfide.
Really, it's molybdenum? Oh, wow.
This is actually this only lasts for the first initial revolutions. And, but you have to have it on there. Otherwise, you run the risk of wiping out. This is only for flat tappet cams. Roller cams, you don't have any kind of special lube.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't have enough hands here.
You don't have enough hands.
I'm trying to also record a little bit more handheld stuff so you can kind of see directly what we're doing, especially if it's off camera like this over here. Maybe you can get a little close up of what we're actually doing. There's probably some guys that have worked on Corvairs watching this. Probably quite a few if you're from any of the Facebook groups watching this. But any new people, this could be interesting. See how a Corvair goes together, because it's got some unique stuff.
It has unique stuff. You just need to pay attention to some details. Engine-wise, it's not any different than any other, flat tappet pushrod engine.
And then we got to do timing. That's very interesting.
Oh, it's simple.
But it's simple. But it's if you haven't seen how to do it before, it could be
you can get lost.
Quite interesting.
And there's probably going to be guys going, well, you're going to put a dial indicator and a degree wheel and check on it? No, I'm not. And here's the reason for that. If you have to make a correction, you have to pull the cam gear off and you have to buy a new one because you've just ruined the one you just put on. And then you're going to cross your fingers that the next one you buy, the next cam gear you buy to put on, has been machined properly. Do you really know? No, you don't. Not until you put the degree wheel on. Okay, cam timing 101. Now these holes are not in the fail-safe gear.
No.
But they are in the stock gear and then this 2518 aftermarket gear. And that's in case you fail to put the oil galley plugs in the end.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
a
so
means
you
of
can
putting
reach
the
it.
oil galley plugs
So
in.
you can reach the oil galley plugs.
Yeah. Otherwise,
you have no way of reaching it.
No, I've already set the crank. So what I want to do, this pip mark, which we'll point out right here, this little spot, is directly across 180 degrees away from the keyway. So this pip mark, let me have a Sharpie. Let me have that Sharpie.
We're gonna mark it. Whoa, this is some technology right here that we haven't used before, or that you probably should have been using a while ago.
That's my mark. Okay,
Instead of
so we got a
relying
pip
on-
mark, right, a little 0 on the gear. I put some Sharpie on it. I'm gonna look at it through the hole in the flywheel, or in the crank gear. I'm not
Oh
there.
man, that's crazy.
Can you see down in there? I don't know if I've got it on.
It looks pretty good to me.
You should be able to see it through this hole.
Well, it's there.
That's it. And it talks about this in the
how did you
manual.
set the timing of this first?
I set it up
Number
so
one
on
up.
this end, the keyway slot in the crank gear is vertical. It needs to be 90 degrees to the parting line.
That's vertical,
Yes.
and then you line that up with that hole.
Okay, and then
Basically means that this is horizontal,
exactly,
and that's vertical.
that should create a perfect 90 degrees. That creates this exact square. Now, if you're a tooth off one way or the other, it'll be way off. The third check is to make sure the lobes of the cam are basically horizontal to the parting line of the case. So this lobe and this lobe and this lobe need to be, if you draw an imaginary line between these, they should be parallel to this parting line. If you're a tooth off, they're going to be this way or they're going to be this way. It'll be evident that it's off.
It's pretty horizontal.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So if it was a tooth off either way, that would not be horizontal. So that's it. Now it's time to put the second half on. If I can get
Sealant
this-
goes in the corners. This corner is exposed.
Yeah, this
Double
corner is
block.
exposed to space. This
Space.
is this and this. This one is enclosed by the bell housing and the oil pan, so there's nothing here. This is not. Factory put a little dab, if I can get this open.
That's why you can see dark spots on there. That's not like
Yeah.
some random thing. That's actually from the factory.
What this is, I'll tell you, this is Permatex. This is a different brand, but this is a Permatex 3H.
Viscous.
And we're talking,
Oh, and it smells good too. I forgot about that. It smells good too.
Yeah.
Probably not good to breathe, but it smells really good.
I think it's okay.
It smells like, it just smells like an old VW or something.
Yeah, it's got,
I don't know why.
it's got,
that
an old
kind
car
of old car smell,
smell, which is good.
which is probably what it's from. It's probably old cars they used to use this to
Oh,
seal
yeah.
stuff up, and that was kind of
I use it on the bell housing gasket, blower housing gasket, oil pump housing, oil filter
Yeah.
housing,
Yeah.
Oil pan. Okay, so now the last thing, we need to put a little lube on the cam. Breaking lube in there. We'll run the distributor, pull the distributor, run the oil pump, and prime everything up. And this you kind of have to do a funny little rotate because this boss here has got to tuck underneath the cam.
Ultra Torque. ARP Ultra Torque. If you're worried about galling the surface here, which this is,
Of
looks
course,
a little.
the factory didn't use anything because it didn't have anything back then.
Yeah. If you're worried about galling it, then this is what you need. ARP Ultra Torque. Fastener assembly lubricant. I don't know if that's in focus, but you know, how do you get it up in there?
If you're going to work on these, buy a manual.
Yeah, get a manual. They have so much detail.
Yeah.
So much detail.
Yeah,
There's a bunch of little steps you got to do.
There's a whole bunch of steps. You have to do them in the right order.
And then it's like, oh, if you see this or you have this happen, then you have to do this and this and this, and you have to add shims here and do that, and you're like, whoa.
But the manual's spot on.
Yeah.
And those of you who are looking at that fixture going, what in the heck is that thing? That's actually, I made this.
It's custom.
Off a photograph.
Oh, yeah.
Of the engine assembly at the factory. And I looked at that and I thought about what the guy was doing, and I thought, that's the coolest thing. That's
a good way to do it.
Custom fixture.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing it on a regular engine stand, then you can't, because you're only going to be able to bolt half the case onto it.
Yeah.
And the most important thing is you can't see your cam timing, your marks, because it's up against the engine stand.
Yeah.
So I like using this.
Also looks cool.
And this lube, you can take about 5 to 7% less torque on these than the factory torque.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So then you'll save your torqueometer. I mean your
the torque wrench. You save the
torque wrench.
You save your torque wrench. You're not ruining your torque wrench.
You don't have to use this.
All right.
And this is not a torque wrench. This is a torque instrument. All right. We gotta remember that. It's a torque instrument. Can't forget that. If you forget that, then it won't torque right. It'll be all screwed up.
Yeah, it won't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
It'll get lost in the. Oh, I knew it was gonna be tight. Custom tool.
Yeah, custom tool. That's it. That's very tight. How tight is? Oh, you gotta get the lube everywhere now. Is that what you're trying to do?
No, we might need to address these bearings.
Is it too tight?
Like in the old days, I don't think dragging it around the block is gonna work.
It's too tight.
So what we'll do, we're just gonna address one side. We're gonna address this side.
Okay.
So let's pop that loose.
So we'll just pop it loose and then
we'll take the bearings out of this half.
Yeah.
We'll go into safety clean with some Scotch-Brite and mineral spirits, and we'll just gently rub in there. That's the idea of doing an abradable lube. I mean, a abradable coating. Is to be able to basically hand fit. And the idea is we're saving the crank. We don't have to turn the crank. It's in perfect shape, beautiful shape, actually.
We don't need to remove the cam and the crank. We can just dress the bearings real quick, and then come back, put the half back on, put the bearings back in, lube it up again, put the half back on. That's not a lot of clearance. If there's no
scraping or rubbing,
there's no scraping, but there's just no lube in there because it's just all been squudged out.
Well, there's extremely thin film.
Yeah, that's pretty tight.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's good though.
yeah. Well, one thing we just looked at was that this coating, when you first get it, has some roughness to it. And then after he just sanded this, it looked like it got much smoother. We're gonna sand them all, get them all smooth, and then put them all in. And hopefully that alleviates a lot of the
It will.
a lot of that tightness out of it.
There's peaks and valleys, very, very, very tiny. I don't have a profilometer, so I can't tell.
But that should do it. So we're gonna do that for all the bearings. This should take a little bit longer, but we will come back when this is installed again after we've sanded everything. I mean, it's tight.
Mm-hmm.
It's not
It's what it's
Unbelievably
going to
tight.
be. It's just what it's going to be. You like how I broached 4 positions in that thing?
So you can rotate it every time. Otherwise, right?
Yeah.
Is it a lot looser than it was before?
Oh, yeah.
It's also not torqued down though, really.
No, and we're going to find out here. Well, let's set this here. We're going to find out here in the next couple steps.
Yeah.
It's tighter.
Is it getting there? Is it getting the same tightness it was before?
Well, we'll find out. How do you know? I mean, it's the only thing in there. It's not the cam. Yeah, in the How to Hot Rod Corvair book, Bill Fisher talks about assembling a case. He says and this is when you could buy the correct bearings and you could set it up to the factory clearances. Most of the time, when you're torquing it up, you'll get to a point and you can't turn the engine over and you got to beat it with a rubber hammer till it frees up. Beat on the case. He says sometimes you have to change your pattern. You have to go to a different pattern. That's how Chevy wanted them set up, very snug.
Wow. Okay. So should we do a different pattern then? You think?
You
You want to go outside in?
No, let's do the same. We're okay.
Even though obviously it doesn't lead to the exact torque or the exact whatever you want. The moment of truth. Holy shit! It's basically seized. You think a starter could do that? Should we drive it down the? Should we pull it down the road?
Yeah, dragging it down the road isn't gonna work.
Dragging down the road's not even gonna work. It's like way.
No, dragging it down the road would probably work.
With that,
But
that tight of clearance.
Obviously it's freed up because it's looser than it was.
I mean, it's tighter than it was because we tightened it down to 40.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to sand them?
That's not bad. This and this. See
These
it?
two.
Yeah. As you can
Tight.
see the wiping of it's not wiping the grease fully off
Yeah.
on these two. It's wiping the grease fully off on that and that.
Okay.
Okay. 3 times the charm.
Third time's the charm.
A little more. You can see how it smashes that stuff fully out of there. It's just smashed out.
The corners, yeah.
Nope, I'm a tooth off. You see how, I think. We're looking at. I'm a tooth off.
Are you?
Yep, I'm 1 tooth off this way, and you can see how this is rotated. Remember, this is low and these are now high. So, now how's it look?
It looks good.
Yeah. It's tighter.
Is it as tight as it was though at 40? No.
Well, we can pull it down one more time tomorrow.
Yeah.
Sand all of them equally. Just a gnat's ass.
I don't know if a gnat's ass is going to cut it, but yeah, okay.
Mhm.
We can do a gnat's ass and then see what a gnat's ass does, and then another gnat's ass.
So what we're doing here, guys, is we spent the time and set the bearing clearances on the mains.
Yeah.
Now I'm checking each one of the rods. I've already mic'd all the journals, and they're within 2 or 3 tenths. So I picked the middle point of, and this is a standard crank, 1.7990. And what I've got for clearance on that particular bearing is 1.3 thousandths. And that's kind of what I'm striving for on this. I've been sanding it in the safety clean with the liquid on, and this is going to be the measurement with the bore gauge. We are at about 1.25 to 1.3 thousandths on that. You can see what I zeroed the bore gauge on the mic at that 1.7990.
The camera's not perfectly facing the dial there, so
but anyway,
it looks a little off. But
yeah, so I think we're right on. So this is what we're doing on all these bearings. Got one more to do, and about we're going to have approximately 1.3 thousandths clearance on all the rod bearings.
And this is also a really nice thing with this coating, is that because it's a coating that will wear to clearance,
running clearance, yeah.
wear to running clearance, you can sand it.
Yeah,
and you can
it's a
get
polymer. It's a spray-on, bake-on
Yeah.
polymer, and I'm using 600 grit wet or dry.
You can fine tune the clearance of each and every bearing on every single journal for everything.
Yeah.
So
And it's time consuming. It's probably I'm spending too much time.
Yeah.
And I'll tell the owner I probably spent too much time on your engine. But anyway, it is going to be very nice. Going to have nice solid oil pressure. This is the bore gauge I used on the mains. It's still pre-set up. I won't go small enough for the rod. And that's
the other one.
An inexpensive China one that I got a long time ago.
And this is the right size for these rods.
Yeah, it's set up for those rods. So I got one more to set. So number one, I set the mains yesterday, and I torqued them all up. I finished it this morning, torqued them all up. Number one is 8/10, which is on the 7 is the minimum for number one. This is 1.1, 1.3, 1.3 So we're all on the snug side, and the engine.
And when you crank it over, it turns really nicely.
It's very smooth.
It's tight, but it's not.
Yeah, not.
It's
the starter will easily be able to turn it over.
Yeah, it's tight, but not stuck.
So we're gonna have very good oil pressure.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
This is already going on too long.
It's gone too long, and you'll have a good one.
Yeah.
See you later.